Hello, hello, Jessica here from JewelryTutorialHQ.com. Today I'm going to show you how to make your own hoop earrings. You can also use these as wine charm rings, and the reason I mention that is because my last video was a Christmas wine charm tutorial, and I promised I'd show you how to make the hoop findings that we used in another video, so here we are. I do need to talk to you really quick about wire before we get started. It's really important to use the right kind of wire or your hoops won't hold their shape. So you don't want to use artistic wire or craft wire because those are going to be way too soft. The type of wire that you do want to use is jewelry wire that is half hard or medium temper. And the gauge that you want to use is no smaller than 22 gauge, which is 0.6 millimeter, and no larger than 20 gauge, which is 0.8 millimeters. I'll put more information about the wire, tools, and supplies needed for this project below the video. Let's go ahead and get started making some hoop earrings. I'm doing this demo using a 22 gauge wire. The first thing I'm going to do is use my nylon jawed chain nose pliers to straighten out the wire off of the coil. Now, the next thing you're going to need is some sort of mandrel, which is a cylindrical object. This one is just a plastic tube of beads, as you can see, that's about 15 millimeters in diameter, which is about 5/8 of an inch. There are plenty of other official mandrels that you can buy for jewelry making in all different shapes and sizes, but basically just find something that's a cylinder that's approximately 15 millimeters in diameter and use it to wrap your wire around just like this. So go ahead and wrap it around, hold it nice and tight so you get a nice round shape, and leave yourself a tail that's straight, that's about 3/4 of an inch to an inch long. And then where your wire crosses over, you can kind of bend that back with your thumb a little bit and then release. And you see how the wire springs back a little bit? That's why we want to use half hard wire. With soft wire, it doesn't do that. And the springiness is very important for a hoop earring. So you can grab your flush cutters and using the back of the flush cutters, cut that straight part of the wire so you've got about a 5 millimeter stem. And now you've got a shape that looks kind of like a little speech bubble. Now we need to do a test. See if you can pull apart the hoop and out of shape easily. If so, that means we need to do a little bit of work hardening to make the wire even stiffer. So go ahead and reshape the hoop on your mandrel. And then make sure your ends are not overlapping for this next step. Now I'm going to grab my steel bench block, and first I'm just going to put down a folded up polishing cloth to absorb some of the hammering, and pick the side that's least dinged up so that doesn't transfer over to the metal. And you want to use a rawhide mallet or a rubber mallet so that you don't actually flatten the metal, and then you're going to start hammering against the bench block. Now I'm going to have more information in the blog post that I write that goes along with this video, so if you have any questions about any of the tools or supplies or anything, be sure to check that out because I'll be able to add a lot more information. So how do you know when to stop hammering? Well, that's going to be different for different types of materials, but basically what you're looking for is the springiness and that the wire is not going to bend out of shape easily. So you should feel a big difference than when we started. So now grab your round nose pliers and the straight part of the wire tail, not the part that we bent up, roll the wire into a hook shape. And then we're just going to bend this around the mandrel so that it follows the circle around. We want this to be a nice round shape. And then when you're happy with the shape, go ahead and check the latch. Make sure it latches easily. If your hook is bent around too much like a loop, it won't latch easily. So you want to make sure it's more like a hook than a loop. And grab your chain nose pliers and then emphasize that bend to make it a nice right angle bend. And that's going to make sure that your hoop will stay closed. So now I'm just going to trim this tail off a little bit. That's a little bit long for my taste. So I'm going to trim a couple millimeters off using the back of my flush cutters so I get a nice flat end on that wire. And if you're making a wine charm, then you are finished with your finding here. You can go ahead and add whatever charms you like. This is the Christmas tree one that I made in the previous video. If you're making an earring, you're going to need to do one more step that's pretty important. That piece of wire that we cut is actually going to be pretty sharp if you try to put that in your ear. So we want to file the end smooth. Now you can use either a regular nail file or you can use a metal file. Hold the file at a 45-degree angle and gently file the end while you hold that angle, and you move the wire around so you can get all sides. And if you can't see that the end is nice and rounded, you can feel it. So you're basically just wanting to take that sharp edge off. So there we have it, folks. That's how to make your own hoop earrings or wine charm rings. I hope you enjoyed this project, and I would love for you to come visit me over at jewelrytutorialhq.com. You'll find lots of fun stuff. I'll see you next time.